Welcome back to my channel. Today we are talking about a maybe good alternative to the quite expensive Natasha Denona palettes. If you want to see what I bought and how that went, then just keep on watching. If you didn't know, I do have two different palettes on my eyelids. Yes, I did. And I have, by the way, the Natasha Denona as well as Lamora palettes on my eye. And I don't know if you know which one is which. Please leave down in the comments what you think is which palette. Like my left eye or your right eye or your left eye. Which one is Lamora and which one is Natasha Denona. I was casually watching TikToks as you do today, and I saw one Austrian TikToker, which I of course will link down below, and she was having a stunning eye look, and I was like asking her what she used, and she told me, yeah, she used Lamora because they can be bought on Amazon, and she said they were $12, and then I like looked at this because I was like, okay, listen, I do need this palette. It's gorgeous, it's stunning, gorgeous on her. And then I saw this one. This was the palette she used. And yeah, well, this is looking a lot like the Glam palette, and she was also talking with me a little bit about that the Glam palette and this palette has a lot of similarities, as well as this palette, which is the Bronze Dream, and this one has a big resemblance of the Bronze palette by Natasha Denona as well. And because I am crazy, I bought both of them, because I do have both of the original Natasha Denona palettes, and I was like, listen, if that's a dupe, I mean, these are $12 on Amazon. $12 on Amazon. Again, these are the midi-sized palettes by Natasha Denona, and they are around $65. I now think she changed the price to $67 per palette. Yeah, let me talk you through that, shall we? Maybe we start with the Bronze palette, because I do have that on right now. And yeah, this is the Natasha Denona Bronze palette. I bought this on sale because, listen, $65. You can definitely tell I used it quite a bit. I did change the like singles at some point with the Natasha Denona Glam palette. Again, you can do that with the palette because it does have holes. You can change this up to your liking if you didn't like any of the shades, or you can switch it out to any of the other medium-sized palettes by Natasha Denona. This is the palette. Do have to say, I did buy this knowing that I would buy this as well, because this one doesn't have like the inner corner highlights I need or want, and this one of course is a lot like warm toned brown orangey shades. I do have to say, I think these 15 pan palettes are a little bit big for this color selection, because I think like a lot of these golds don't have a significance different, if you will. So the Lamora Bronze Dreams palette is a little bit smaller. It just have like 12 shades, which excluded also a few of the gold shades. Again, this is seemingly quite similar to this one, so just so you know. But yeah, this is the palette itself. It is beautiful and stunning. Listen, don't get me wrong, it's gorgeous. Like, look at these shades. You do have, again, missing the really light shades. I will also like put in swatches and comparison between the two. Again, please have in mind that the Natasha Denona has 3 more shades and the Lamora doesn't. I'm trying to put the most similar shades underneath each other, so you can definitely see if they are quite the same or not. And yeah, that is something I hope you love about these. Again, they are also a little bit smaller, which I do also like a lot. Again, they do have, of course, 3 less shades, which would be like this, so it's not like they are super small, but okay, they are a little bit smaller. The same goes again for the Glam palette. It is around 65, 67 bucks by Natasha Denona. I bought this particular because I have a lot of really light shades which I love to put in my inner corner, as well as really deep shades. I do like that quite a bit. And yeah, I did like the composition. Again, I bought both of them knowing that I would use them together because I don't want to use them separately, if you will. And the Lamora Attractrion palette has the same vibe. Again, we do have a 12-pan palette, and we do have light tones to the deep tones. We miss a few of the shades, but I feel like for the Lamora shades, we did picked, or they picked the shades that are a little bit more different and not just like the gold, next gold, and the third gold, which looks almost identical. You know what I mean? So yeah, that is just a little bit about that. Again, I hope I did show you swatches of them compared. I think, like, testing it the very first time, this is right after I tested the Bronze Dreams and Bronze together. Like, again, you can write down which is which. I feel like this is a really nice, like the Lamora palettes have a really nice quality, at least this one has. Again, didn't try the other one, but just like seemingly testing it out, it does have a really nice quality. It seems like it is quite similar, maybe not 100% similar to the Natasha Denona palettes. I feel like especially the shades does have a little bit of a different undertone. But other than this, I think they're blended out beautifully. I worked with them beautifully. I didn't have any problems with the shimmer. I didn't have any problems with any of the shade. They're quite pigmented. Again, they blend out great. So for me, this is a win. At the end of the day, it is a win. Again, these are 12 bucks in comparison to these, which are 65. So if you ever wanted to try a similar vibe, almost identical vibe to the bronze palette by Natasha Denona, I definitely can recommend this one. And the same goes for the Attractrion palette. Again, if they are not 100% dupes, I don't think you need that. Listen, I don't think you need that. Can you tell which is which? I won't spoil it till you see the tutorial, which will be coming up now. Okay, let's start the makeup tutorial part. I wanted to start with the bronze and the Bronze Dream palette. We have both of them. Again, I will show you the bronze palette by Natasha Denona. This is it, and then I'm maybe having that on this side of my face, on this eye, and then I will try to have the same look and see if it really is a dupe on this side with the Lamora palette, so that we have, like, on your right the Natasha Denona, and on my right the Lamora palette. I think that will work. We'll figure it out. Let's say it like this. I did prime my eyes already, and I will use the same brushes. I will just clean them up with the, it's not a color switch, it's just like one of those foam cleaning things you always see anywhere. So yeah, let's start. By the way, my highlight is popping like crazy. So yeah, but let's start and see if these palettes are the same or comparable. Okay, let's start on this side with the Natasha Denona palette, and we will use Sultan, this one, in my eyes. Let me grab also my trusty old mirror. I will use an angled brush and just try to not blend you with the mirror, and I will try to use that in my crease, something like this. We will blend with another shade, of course, but just so we have that in laid down. I also will run this shade with the same brush, just a little bit underneath my eyes. Like so. Again, trust the process. We didn't blend anything, like we just deposit a little bit of color. I will clean off this brush and now it is clean. I didn't have any color, like listen. And now we will use in the Lamora palette the shade Cheyenne, this one. And we will do exactly the same on the other eye. Trying to do that the same way. Please have in mind, my right eye is normally not the best to like display anything, so we'll have to work with that, but normally I can do that. Maybe I have to tweak a few things, but in general. First impression, I didn't use these palettes beforehand, so this is the first time. First impression, they definitely like are pigmented, like the Lamora one is really pigmented, which is really nice. So let's also run this underneath. Need to find myself not dipping into the other palette to adjust. I think you can definitely see they're a little bit different color wise. I think I did use the right shade if I'm not mistaken. Should be. It's just a little bit, I feel like. But in general, that is the look so far. Okay, I don't think there is like a lot of difference, to be honest, with these shades. Like a hint of color. But yeah, let's go into Beach, which is this shade. And just blend out what we did here. And not try to like throw that out anywhere. Just a little bit like blending on the edges so it is really nicely blended. Of course, also on the lower lash line we will just blend a little bit. I think you can definitely see the difference. And also we will use from the Lamora palette the shade Desert, which should be the perfect like blending shade to Beach. I was also like comparing these. Hopefully this is almost the same. Wow, they are pigmented. Definitely need to use more, less to be honest, because this is like really pigmented. My problem, by the way. It's not the problem of the palette. Blend that blended really nicely. Even though I think I did use a little bit too much of product. I can't tell. Like, look at this. Doesn't look so different, does it? Okay, so now we blended our shade and now let's come to some lid shades. I think because I wanted to do a little bit more of a smoky look, I want to use Rhodium, which is this shade, on all over my lid. And I will use my finger for that because, listen, I feel safe doing that. That is the shade. It is more of a, like in the pan, it looks more of a like purpley brown. I feel like if you swatch it, it has a little bit more of a brown tint to that. Just put that all over the lid. Definitely tell it's not like too purpley to finish the look. I think like this has one of those, like, I would say duochromy effects, because you definitely can tell that it is in some light a little bit of purple, but it's not overall. You know what I mean? And we will use from the Lamora shade, the shade Utopia, which we'll see if that is the same or not. Again, I will use that on my finger. I think like this is a little bit more like metallic. We'll see about that. Listen, if I look like a clown at the end of this video, we know it's not the same. Okay. I feel like it's seemingly the same. Like it's also not quite opaque, which, I mean, again, the Natasha Denona is also not quite opaque, I feel like. But you can normally layer these. To be honest, I can't see a difference. I think if you wouldn't tell me that I did this with two different palettes, I don't think you could tell. I do want to give it a little bit more depth, so we will go in with Deep Dive. This is the like cream to powder shade by Natasha Denona. And again, I'm trying not to hoax this and put it on the wrong eye because we've come too far. I did also put it on the left, so my left, so that should be working. I feel especially this shade, because it is cream to powder, I feel like especially this shade is a little bit more prone to fallout, which I promptly have here, like really, really small specks. It's a beautiful color though. But again, if you have your face done, like I have, it's not the look you want to go with. Let's say it like this. I also, again, clean off this brush and we will go into the shade Deep, which is the deepest shade from the Lamora palette. And we will try that again. I don't know. That seems like a cream to powder to me. We'll see about that. Listen. And then we will do the same and build a little bit on the outer edge. Just a little bit. By the way, same fallout like from the Natasha Denona palette, listen. I did a little bit of blending again, just to like incorporate the deeper shade into the look a little bit better. I used the first shade we used, like Suntana for the Natasha Denona and Cheyenne, yes, for the Lamora, just to blend it a little bit. And now let's do a little bit here. Sadly, I have to say, in both of these palettes, there is not a really light shade for my inner corner. I do like that quite a bit, so I will use something different. And know these shades, like, it's not light enough for my liking. And again, for this one, it's also not giving us lighter shades. So I will incorporate another color, just because I can. And I thought I would use Bliss, which is the gold to pink shade in the Natasha Denona palette. And we just add that on a brush, because why not? And just like bring that a little bit on the inner corner. It's not quite the inner corner, I will put there something else, but that is the shade. They build quite well. I will clean that brush. And now, again, it's clean. And now we will use the shade Lava, which is, again, the same thing. It's like a gold to a reddish pinkish color. And we will use that on the other eye. This is looking like... By the way, I do have fallout with both of these shades, just so you know. I don't know if you can tell the difference. I can't. I will finish that look up and I'll be right back. This is the finished look. I added some lashes. Again, I washed them and now I don't know what they are. I used for my inner corner because, again, I didn't have any shade that would fit my aesthetic of inner corner highlight. I added the Colourpop in Star Wars Jelly Much Shadow in Protocol, which was by the, again, Star Wars limited edition, but of course you can use any shade you want. White would do great with this look. Like, first impression, again, I'd never used this palette before. I have to say, like, I wouldn't, like, listen, I would have really problems to really say which one is which palette. Again, this one is Decide for the Lamora palette and this one is the Natasha Denona. You can see a little bit of a difference, especially in like the undertones. I feel like this side for the Natasha Denona has a little bit more of a yellow undertone, which this side is a little bit more cool, like not yellow. But in general, I don't think you can see a lot. And if you don't know, I wouldn't say anyone couldn't say you used Natasha Denona even though you used the Lamora. I will say though, the shade I have here is on the Natasha Denona side a little bit green, which this is not. This is like a pure gold to pink red color, and this one by Natasha Denona has a little bit of a green undertone as well, which I think you can see in this lighting, and I don't think you can see quite a bit. Like this one is a little bit like not that shimmery in this kind of a way. On the other hand though, I feel like this shade in particular, like the wild shade, which, no, is it the white? No, it's Utopia, which is, which shade is it from the Natasha Denona? Rhodium. I feel like this shade in particular by Lamora is way more pigmented and a little bit more purple, which I do like, because I feel like with this shade by Natasha Denona, I feel like this one sometimes looks like you have like patchy eyelids, which again, it's not like quite as pigmented as this one. And I feel like you can definitely see a little bit more of a like difference in that. But other than this, I also don't think that this is like 100% the same palette, because I don't think that Ridge, which is a yellow leaning color, is in this palette at all. I mean, yes, I do like that color, to be honest, which is a little bit unfortunate. But again, we don't have like a lot of these gold tones, which I'm happy that there are just like one real gold tone in this one, and here you have like 3 or 4, you know. But yeah, this is like, again, the first palette, but of course we do have another, and I have that also prepared. So let's see a look with the Natasha Denona Glam and the Lamora Attraction palette as well. Let's come to the look with the Glam palette as well as the Attraction palette by Lamora. I will do this one again on this side, and then the Lamora on my right side, your left side, so that we have like the same point of view from the last palettes. And let me show you both. This one is the Glam palette again. I did show you that in the beginning as well. This is the Glam palette. We do have a really great assortment of more neutrally browny tones, a little bit of pink shimmer here, goldish colors as well. And then in the other round, or in the other packaging, again we have the Lamora Attraction palette. This one is a little bit more sized down. Again, we do have 3 shades left. These one are 12 pence, the other one is 15 pence, and this is the situationship we have here. Let's start. I don't quite know what I'm doing. I will put on some eye primer because I forgot, and then we will start with a great look, I am assuming. Okay, let me start. I will use just a small brush. This one is clean. I will go in with Natasha Denona Lash Line, which is the deepest shade, a deep brown. And then let's go in there. And then just like look straight forward. Hopefully you don't. And then go in like a line. Like this. That worked great. We do also do that as a liner. Just a little bit on the lash line. Can do this later also. Like so. Just a little bit. Nothing too fancy. It doesn't have to be like the prettiest thing ever, because we will blend that. I will clean up the brush because I do, again, it's clean, you can definitely tell. We use the same shade, but this time it's dark in the Lamora palette on the other eye. We'll see. If, to be honest, I'm quite excited to see. These are, I think, a little bit more dupish than, or dupes than the bronze palette and the bronze Attraction, at least in my, was it the bronze dream? Bronze dream, in my opinion. Do the same thing, trying to. Oh. That does look dead on the same. And again, we are also doing a little bit of liner. Again, nothing fancy, nothing realtor. So that's the first step. So for the next step, we blend a little bit and we use, I know, hilarious, the shade Blend by Natasha Denona and the shade Sand by the Lamora palette. This should be the same shade, to be honest. Yeah, we do miss the lighter shade, like this one, Crease. This one we don't have in the Lamora, but this one is the shade we are using now, which is indeed existing in the Lamora shade palette. Let's use the shade Blend. We will just blend out a little bit here on top. Just a little bit here. We can also mix in, and we will also blend here in between, just to give it a little bit of dimension. Because I do want to add in like a shimmer in here, this region, so we will blend that. I will also, to blend it further, we use a combination of both shades. So with a little bit of a smaller brush, just so we don't have like this harsh of a like transition between the two colors. And then at the end, I will use the same brush I used at the beginning where I did this form to just like further some deepness. Lucky for me, both of these colors are directly in the same like lane. See, if you blend that as a combination or a mix from both colors, you can definitely tell. So it is way better to blend with that and just give it a little bit more of a like a nicer blend. Don't worry that now the like deepest shade is not as crisp as we had it in the beginning, because again, we can deepen this up anytime in the look, and I will prefer to do this at the end so that we have a really nice and crisp line. We can also use the shade Transition and Bare in the respective palettes. This one is like a brighter bone color, if you will, with a little hint of gray. You know, we transitioned a little bit more into the lid, blend a little bit better. And now we will do the same thing with the Lamora palette and their respective colors. This one is again the shade Sand. Again, I cleaned my brush, and we will do the exact same thing. I will lay down the color first. Here and here. Like so. And then I will clean the other brush and mix the two brown shades we had. Again, also these ones are directly beneath or beside each other. And then I will just go again and mix them so that we have a great and nice blend. Using again the shade Sand just to blend a little bit more, and using the shade Bare. I think it was the shade Bare to, yes, it was the shade Bare. Again, the more bone color, grayish color, to just blend out the edges so that everything blends really nicely and we don't have a lot of harsh lines. Like so. I think that is quite nice. What do you think? Okay, before I again do the blackish line again, we will come to the next part, which will be shimmers. For the lid, I do want to use Center Eye Lid, which is silver, and this one is Star, which again is a silver, and just put that on the lids. We will of course use first of all the Natasha Denona, and we'll see how this is going. And I will just use that on a flat brush. Hopefully this is not, no, it's perfect. It's just a little bit of a silver drip. It's nothing too extreme, if you will. Like, look at this, it's really pretty. We'll clean up that brush. Of course, I'm checking also if there's still color left, because that would, you know, don't be a good thing. And now I'm using the shade Star, which should be the same, hopefully, and the Lamora palette. Okay, you can definitely tell it's not the same. Let me go into Star again. Just let me... okay, maybe there was a layer on top that gave it a little bit harder to pick up. This is again the Lamora. This one is Natasha Denona. I think you can see a difference. I think this color is a little less bright, which is interesting. Maybe let me try a smaller, more dense brush to pick it up. I feel like this one again was a little bit more like stiff. I also have a little bit of fallout, which I don't have with the Lamora, but that is like the point here. Again, the Natasha Denona was easier to pick up. I do want to have like a more light spot here, so I will use the shade again, Bare and Transition, to bright up this area. Just use a little bit of a transition just here on the edge. This is indeed like a light gray color. For me, it's almost my skin color, so that's great. I think if you're lighter than me, this could be like a great inner corner highlight. So I think like this shade is a little bit, like the Lamora shade is a little bit lighter than the gray shade by Natasha Denona, but indeed this shade is a little bit deeper than the Natasha Denona shade. So we do have a good bunch. And then for the inner corner, I do want to use the shade Inner Corner, this one, which is a light gold by Natasha Denona, and this one is the shade Radiant, which is this one. Again, looks the same, and we will see. Let's start with the Natasha Denona shade Radiant. I'm just putting that in my inner corner. I think I used it before as an inner corner highlight because, listen, it's a great shade for an inner corner highlight. That's why it says inner corner highlight. And then we use again the shade Radiant for my right eye. This is looking identical. Just saying. Beautiful. And now I will listen. I will finish that. I will put in a little bit of the medium and deep shade on my lower lash line, and I will also like do that one again and deepen up these like cuts, if you will, like the lines. And then I will finish all of this up, and then we talk about the palette as well. This is the finished look. I added some lashes, which I don't even know. I added them from the ones I washed, and yes, I should have tracked them down properly, but I didn't. So yeah, this is the finished look. I felt like they're quite similar. Not 100%, but I don't think you can definitely tell which one is which one. Telling you. I do have to say, I do like this shade a little bit better than in the Lamora palette, but which I don't think you can tell that there is a difference. But I do have to say I do like the Bare shade in the Lamora palette a little bit more because it's a little bit lighter, and I think you can definitely tell that this part is a little bit lighter than this part, which is always a nice thing. I don't think you could see a difference in both of them. So for me, this is definitely a win. I think if you want to have the same vibe, I think especially this palette is a little bit more similar than the bronze or bronze dune one. I think that if you do wanted to own the Natasha Denona, but you were like, I don't know if I would spend that money for a neutral palette or a palette, you know, that is quite honestly a neutral silvery brown palette, I think you definitely can go with the Lamora one. I think also that there is no problem with the shimmers. maybe you need to build it up a little bit more like I did, but in general it worked phenomenal. This one is though a little bit, like a teensy bit more effortless, but other than this, like listen, this is $65 and this is $12, so I mean there is a distinct price difference between the two, so I definitely would go with the one you wanted to add. Again, these Natasha Denona palettes do have the option to like switch them, exchange them with other palettes. Again, I do have 3 of them, so I can technically exchange them. I can put them into Z palettes. I can like switch all 3 of them, or I can buy more and switch them out to make my custom palette. I don't think that is the case for the Lamora one, but on the other hand, again, you do have less shades. It's a little bit more travel friendly, I feel like. I totally don't like to travel with my palettes that are so high-end or higher end. So definitely would be going with this one if I wanted to travel and bring a neutral palette. Again, I think you do have, in this palette, I definitely think you do have everything you need. You have deep shades, you have like, by the way, this is like mixing just powder. Yeah. But you have definitely like light shades, medium shades, deep shades in the mattes as well. Like you don't have, I don't think this is like super deep, but you do have options as well on the shimmer side, where you have like really light shimmers, medium shimmers, and deeper shimmers, which I think especially this one will be definitely be and stay in my collection. Again, the Bronze Dream ones for me is missing a really light shade. So again, for this one, I wouldn't have any problems. I could put this in my bag and I wouldn't have any problems at all. Again, the quality is really nice. I didn't have any problems except for the shimmer shade that just worked in the second like pass. That I don't have any problems with blending. Maybe you could see a little bit more like blendability in the Natasha Denona side, but I don't think it is so obvious. I think that when you see a difference, it's probably me and not really Natasha Denona or Lamora's fault. So yeah, this is this look. I definitely think it's super damn pretty, and I hope you enjoyed my little comparison between the 2 palettes. I wish you a beautiful week. We see us in my next video, so bye guys.